Callan Ward had spent years fixing broken ships at the far edge of human space. The orbital station where he worked floated above a quiet trade route, a place where merchants, smugglers, and wanderers came for fuel and repairs before vanishing into the dark. Callan liked the work. It was steady, predictable, and most days, nobody asked too many questions. But sometimes, the unexpected walked through his hangar doors. That night, as the shift lights dimmed to simulate evening, he heard a slow echo of footsteps on the metal deck. He looked up from the engine core he was adjusting and saw a tall figure cloaked from head to toe. The hood covered the face, the long coat brushing the floor as the figure stopped just inside the bay. "Are you the mechanic?" The voice was soft, almost careful. Callan wiped his hands on his work rag. "Yeah, that's me. You need repairs?" The stranger hesitated, as if measuring the risk of speaking. Then she pulled back the hood. Callan blinked. Her features were sharp, graceful, but not human. Her skin gave off the faintest shimmer, as if light bent differently across it. Her eyes were silver gray, too bright for comfort, yet strangely sad. "I am Sci-Fi," she said. "My ship is damaged. I can pay." Callan frowned. He had heard of her kind before, though never seen one up close. The rumors weren't kind. They were called untouchables, a race said to carry a strange bioenergy that burned through any living flesh it touched. Other mechanics avoided them. Whole stations banned them. "Most places won't take me," Sci-Fi added quietly, reading the doubt on his face. She kept her hands hidden inside her sleeves. "I thought I might try here before I am turned away again." Callan leaned against the workbench, studying her. She looked tired, worn down, but there was no threat in her voice. Just weariness. "What kind of damage?" he asked. "Engines offline?" "Shield array burned out. I barely reached the station." He could imagine. Without shields, drifting through pirate lanes was almost a death sentence. He felt a tug in his chest, not of fear, but of something else spitty, maybe. Or the stubborn streak that hated seeing anyone desperate. "Dock your ship in Bay 6, Callan said finally. "I'll take a look." For a moment, surprise flickered across her face. Then she bowed her head. "Thank you." Her ship looked as battered as she did. Panels were scorched, the hull scarred from energy blasts. Inside, wires hung loose like vines. Callan crawled through the narrow passageways, his tool belt clinking. While Sci-Fi followed silently as he worked, she spoke little. But Callan noticed how her silver eyes tracked every movement, almost as if waiting for him to flinch, to pull back in fear. He did not. He was curious, yes, but not afraid. "You know what people say about my kind?" Sci-Fi whispered at last. "I've heard stories," Callan admitted, tightening a bolt. "They say if anyone touches you, they get burned." She lowered her gaze. "It is a lie. My body carries energy, yes, but it is not meant to harm. It protects, nothing more. Long ago, an accident happened during first contact. Someone panicked. People died. Since then, my people are called cursed. No one dares come near us." Her words carried weight, like stones dropped in water. Callan felt something stir inside, him anger at the injustice, maybe, or just simple empathy. He had known what it felt like to be judged by stories rather than truth. "Well," he said, brushing dust off his sleeves, "stories don't fix engines. Let's see what we can do for the first time." Sci-Fi's lips curved into the smallest smile. Hours passed as he repaired the ship. The more he worked, the more he saw how much Sci-Fi had struggled to keep it running. He found patchwork repairs clearly done by her own hands, burns across her palms where tools had slipped. She had been fighting to survive alone. At one point, as she leaned closer to hand him a scanner, Callan noticed the faint shimmer around her skin. It wasn't threatening. It pulsed softly, almost like light reflecting off water. He felt a strange warmth in the air between them. "You're not afraid," Sci-Fi whispered suddenly. Callan looked up. Her silver eyes were on him, wide and searching. "You're the first human who's not afraid to touch me." The words hung in the small cabin like a secret confession. Callan didn't answer right away. He wasn't sure what to say, but he knew this much: he wasn't afraid. He bent over the engine again, pretending not to notice the way her gaze lingered. Yet deep down, something had shifted. Outside the bay windows, the stars burned bright, cold, and endless. Inside, two unlikely figures worked side by side, one human mechanic, one alien outcast. Both carried their own scars. Both had grown used to distance. But for the first time, that distance felt smaller, and though neither of them knew it yet, the simple act of choosing to stay in that hangar together would change far more than a broken ship. It would change the story of two entire peoples. The next morning, Callan was already in the hangar when Sci-Fi returned. She walked slowly, as if expecting the guards to stop her at any moment. People on the station had begun to notice her presence. A few workers stared as she passed, whispering to each other. Callan caught the looks from across the bay, but he ignored them. He had made his choice. "Your ship has a chance," he said, when she stepped inside. "The engines are stable for now, but the shield array is burned out. That will take more time." Sci-Fi nodded. She moved closer, careful to keep her hands folded into her sleeves. "I am grateful. Most would have refused me." Callan shrugged. "Engines don't fix themselves. Somebody has to do it." She tilted her head, studying him. "But why you? You could have turned me away like the others." He paused. He didn't have a perfect answer. "Because I don't like the idea of someone stranded out there. I've been stranded once myself. It isn't something I'd wish on anyone." For a long time, Sci-Fi was quiet. Then she said softly, "You are different from the others." The days stretched into nights as Callan worked on the shield array. It was complicated, a mess of burned circuits and cracked crystal cells that had to be rebuilt almost from nothing. Sci-Fi stayed close, watching him work, sometimes offering tools when he asked. She never came too near, always leaving a small distance between them. But the silence between them grew less heavy at times. She told him pieces of her past. "My people once lived openly," she said one evening, sitting on a crate while he welded a new panel. "We tried to join the trade networks. We shared our songs and our maps, but during a meeting, something went wrong. Our energy fields reacted to a human's weapon scan. It flared. There was panic. Some thought we attacked. Soldiers opened fire." Callan set down the tool and looked at her. "So that's where the fear began." She nodded. "Since then, no one has dared touch us. They say we are dangerous. They say we carry a curse." Her voice was steady, but her eyes carried pain. Callan could almost feel the weight of it pressing against the walls of the hangar. "I don't think. You're cursed," he said firmly. "I think you've been misunderstood." Sci-Fi looked at him for a long moment, as if deciding whether to believe him. By the third night, the shield array was halfway rebuilt. Callan sat cross-legged on the deck, wires and tools scattered around him. Sci-Fi crouched nearby, her silver eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. "You don't fear my energy," she whispered. "No," he said without looking up. "Should I? Others do. I'm not others." She studied him again, her expression unreadable. Then slowly, she lifted one hand from her sleeve. For the first time, Callan saw her bare skin. It glowed faintly, like moonlight caught in glass. The air around it shimmered. "This is why they fear me," she said. Her voice shook. "If I move too close, sensors scream alarms. People step back. Children hide. No one has ever reached toward me." Callan set his tool down and met her gaze. "It doesn't scare me." The hangar was quiet, except for the hum of the station's systems. The faint glow of her hand lit the space between them. "You are the first human who's not afraid," she whispered again. Callan's breath caught. He wanted to reach out, to prove her fears wrong, but he forced himself to stay still. Not yet. She wasn't ready. Maybe he wasn't either. Instead, he gave a small smile. "Let's fix the shield first. Then maybe we'll talk about the rest the next day." Trouble came. Two station officers walked into the bay while Callan was inside the ship. Their boots clanged on the floor, their hands resting on stun rifles. Sarai stood near the entrance, her hood pulled back up, but it did little to hide her. The officers scowled when they saw her. "This hangar is restricted," one of them barked. "That creature doesn't belong here." Callan climbed out from under the panel, anger flashing in his chest. "She's my client. Her ship's here legally." "Not anymore," the officer snapped. "Station command has decided. She's a hazard. If you don't remove her, we will." Sarai lowered her head, shoulders slumping as if she had expected this. She turned to leave without protest. But Callan stepped in front of her. "You'll do nothing," he said firmly. "She hired me. Until the job's done, this bay is mine." "You've got no authority here without a warrant," the officers glared. For a tense moment, Callan thought they might draw their weapons. But finally one muttered, "You'll regret this, mechanic." They turned and left, their footsteps heavy with threat. Sarai looked at him in shock. "You defied them." "For me," Callan exhaled, trying to calm his heartbeat. "I'm not letting them push you around. You came here for help, and you're going to get it." Her silver eyes softened. For the first time, he saw real hope there. That night, the bay was quiet again. They worked side by side until only the glow of tools lit the space. When the last panel clicked into place, Callan sat back, wiping sweat from his brow. "It's done," he said. "The shield array should work now." Sarai stared at him, her hands trembling slightly. She moved closer, closer than ever before, until only inches separated them. Her glow shimmered in the air, brushing the edge of his skin without touching. "You risked yourself today," she whispered. "You stood against your own people. And still, you are not afraid." Her hand hovered near his, so close he could feel the warmth radiating from her field. Callan's heart pounded. Slowly, deliberately, he lifted his hand too, stopping just short of contact. "Because I trust you," he said quietly. For a long moment, neither moved. The space between them glowed softly, filled with tension and promise. Then Sarai whispered, "You are the first human who has ever reached out." Callan swallowed hard. He wanted to close the distance, to prove her words true. But he held back, sensing the final step needed to come at the right time. Instead, said, "Then maybe tomorrow, we'll see where this goes." Sarai's lips curved into a fragile smile. And for the first time, the hangar felt less like a place of exile and more like a place of possibility. The station was restless the next day. Rumors spread quickly. Everyone had heard about the alien woman in the hangar and the mechanic who dared defend her. Workers whispered in the corridors, officers kept watch near Base 6, and even the automated station systems seemed on edge, reporting constant biohazard warnings. Callan ignored them. He had one goal: finish the work and help Sarai leave safely. But deep down, he knew something had changed. This wasn't only about fixing a ship anymore. It was about trust. It was about breaking a wall that had stood for generations. Inside the bay, Sarai stood quietly as Callan ran final checks on the shield array. The repaired panels hummed with new energy, glowing faintly as they stabilized. "It should be ready," Callan said at last. "Your ship can fly again." Sarai's silver-gray eyes lifted to his. There was relief in them, also something heavier, something that seemed to press on both of them, like invisible gravity. "You have given me more than repairs," she whispered. "You gave me hope." Callan felt his chest tighten at her words. He tried to laugh it off. "Hope doesn't come with a guarantee. You'll still face people who won't understand." "I know," she said softly. Then she looked down at her hands. They trembled slightly as she pulled them free from her sleeves. Her skin shimmered like glass touched by starlight, the faint glow surrounding her fingers. "But I also know one thing now. Not everyone turns away." She stepped closer. The distance between them shrank until he could feel the warmth of her energy brushing against his skin. "Yesterday, you almost reached for me," she whispered. "Will you today?" Callan's heart pounded. Every story he had ever heard said this was dangerous. Every warning light in the station system blinked red. But every instinct in him said otherwise. Slowly, carefully. He lifted his hand and moved it closer to hers. For a second, fear whispered in his ear, what if the stories were true? What if he was burned, infected, destroyed? But then Sarai's eyes met his, and he saw no danger there. Only longing and trust. Their hands touched. The world shifted in an instant. Instead of pain, warmth flowed through him, like sunlight after years in the dark. The glow of her energy spread around them, filling the bay with a soft golden light. Callan gasped as images flashed through his mind, not his memories, but hers. He saw her as a child, running across crystal fields under a violet sky. He saw her family, their faces full of laughter and music. He felt her loneliness when the galaxy turned against her people, when doors closed, when hands pulled away. He felt her endless wandering, the silence of being treated as something to fear, and then woven through all of it. He felt her hope, the small flame she carried even in exile, the hope that one day someone would see her for who she truly was. The vision faded. Callan stood there, his hand still in hers, his breath unsteady. Sarai's eyes shimmered with tears that glowed like silver stars. "You saw?" she whispered. "You felt what I carry?" Callan nodded slowly. "It's not a curse. It's a gift." For the first time, she smiled without hesitation. Outside the bay, alarms blared. Security rushed in, drawn by the strange energy reading. Officers skidded to a stop at the doorway, rifles raised, expecting danger. But what they saw froze them in place. Two figures stood in the center of the hangar, hands clasped, surrounded by a soft golden aura. There was no fire, no destruction, only peace. Callan turned his head toward them, his hand still in Sarai's. "Look," he said firmly. "She's not a threat." The officers exchanged uneasy glances. The evidence was in front of them, undeniable. The aura shimmered gently, not like a weapon, but like a shield of harmony. One officer lowered his weapon first. The others followed. Word spread faster than ever. Within hours, the entire station was talking about what had happened in Bay 6. For decades, stories of Sarai's people had been twisted into fear. But now, there was a new story. A human had touched one of them. And instead of death, there was light. Sarai's ship was ready to depart. Callan walked her to the ramp. Around them, workers watched quietly, no longer whispering in fear, but in wonder. Some even nodded with respect. "You've changed everything," Sarai said as she turned to him. "No," Callan replied with a small smile. "We did." She hesitated, then reached for his hand once more. This time, he didn't pause. Their fingers touched again, the glow surrounding them briefly before fading. "When I return to my people," she whispered, "I will tell them about the human who reached out. They will know the stories of fear are not the only ones." Callan's throat tightened. "And I'll tell mine about the one who trusted me enough to let me in." For a moment, neither spoke. Then Sarai stepped onto her ship. The engines roared to life, steady and strong. Thanks to his work, the ship rose, hovered, then glided toward the stars. Callan stood at the edge of the hangar, watching the glow of the engines fade into the vastness of space. He felt tired, but also lighter, as if something greater than a broken ship had been repaired. He had not only fixed her vessel, he had helped mend a bridge between two worlds. Later, alone in the hangar, Callan looked at his hands. They still tingled faintly from the memory of the touch. He smiled to himself. The galaxy was vast, full of wars, fears, and misunderstandings. But sometimes change didn't come from battles or treaties. Sometimes it came from something smaller. A single touch. A single choice not to be afraid.